Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so one of my friends who is here today is actually a former student. I've known Ellie Hohenstein since she was 4 years old, and she has been living with type 1 diabetes since she was 2. I'm a close friend of her family. Ellie graduated from the school I led in 2012, and on her last day of 6th grade, we took a picture together in my office. We took this largely because I managed her diabetes care when she was a student. And if you know anything about diabetes care, this was way before continuous glucose monitors and pumps. So this meant that I was testing her blood sugar with strips and giving her insulin injections every day. And this is also what my dad lived with most of his life. My dad was pretty reluctant to get on board with the new technologies of diabetes, so truly most of his life, this is how my dad lived and lived every day as well. So my dad actually met Ellie when Ellie was in 1st grade. My dad came to DC and walked with us as part of Ellie's fans for the annual Breakthrough T1D Walk to Cure Diabetes. Ellie just graduated from Tufts University with her master's degree, and she's living in Cambridge. To use one of my dad's words, he would be floored by Ellie as a 25-year-old. I'm so proud of her and thankful she's here today and that she agreed to share her experiences as a young adult living with type 1 diabetes. Please welcome Ellie Hohenstein.
And I checked the webpage, we're at 5,200.
Oh, good. Oh, thank you. Of course, Ellie would be the one to
So hi everyone, thank you all for coming. I also wrote down what I was going to say because I knew I would just go blank in my mind if I didn't. But like Nicole said, I only got to meet Bob a couple times, but I've known Nicole for as long as I can remember. She was my elementary school principal and she managed my diabetes all through elementary school, and she is still saved in my phone as Ms. McDermott, even though I would call her office multiple times a day to tell her what my blood sugar was, and she would give me my insulin shots in my butt at lunch every day.
Can I just ask, since you said Ellie, so the funny thing was the picture that I referenced that we took on her last day, we sent it to Ellie's family on that day. And Ellie's grandmother said, "Well, thank God this is what the picture is, because I thought it was going to be of Ellie's bum."
It would make sense. But I'm honored that Nicole asked me here today to share some of my experience with type 1 diabetes, and that I get to consider her a friend now, even though she is Ms. McDermott in my face. So I will never change. So unless you know someone with type 1 diabetes or you're diabetic yourself, you probably don't know all of the work, the physical and mental work that goes into managing this day to day, unless someone's kind of let you look behind the curtain. A real statistic, this is not one I made up, is that type 1 diabetics make about almost 200 medical management decisions every day. For me, this can be something as small as checking my blood sugar before I drive to make sure it's safe because I can't drive with a low blood sugar, to something as big as counting the carbs in my meal and calculating how much insulin I need to make sure that I don't go high or low later. I was joking yesterday with my friends that are here with me today that I feel the reason I'm always the one in our friend group who's forgetting my keys and my wallet all the time is that my mental checklist when I leave the house is not the typical phone, keys, wallet. My mental checklist every time I leave the house is, do I have a low snack? Is my pump full of insulin? Is my pump charged? And does my continuous glucose monitor have enough life in it to get to when I'll be back, or is it going to expire during the day? These constant things to remember, combined with these frequent decisions about what carbs you're eating and how much insulin you're taking, makes diabetes feel like you're walking on a tightrope. I'm always doing all I can to keep my blood sugar in range, but sometimes it feels like the world is working against me. Whether that's a hot day making my blood sugar run low, or I eat something different for breakfast and I calculated the carbs wrong and now I'm high. But that being said, I know I'm incredibly lucky. New technological advancements mean that instead of pricking my fingers every few hours like I did in elementary school, I now get updates every 5 minutes to my phone about what my blood sugar is in real time. In the last few years, my insulin pump now takes those readings and can make decisions on whether to give me more or less insulin in real time. This is a far cry from the diabetes that Nicole talked about earlier and that I grew up with and that my parents were taught to manage in 2002. Back then, my parents were mixing 2 different kinds of insulin in the same syringe, and they had to make sure I was eating the same amount of carbs at the same time every day. Try telling that to a 2-year-old. The doctors also had to teach my parents wrestling moves to hold me down and give me my insulin shots, so I don't envy them. While today I have the luxury of sleeping through the night, back then, knowing that my pump will shut off if I go too low or that my continuous glucose monitor will alarm and wake me up if I need to do something. For 16 years, my parents would trade off nights to wake up at 2 in the morning and check my blood sugar and give me insulin if I needed it or juice if I was too low. And I know things must have been even different for Bob. I don't know the specifics of when he was diagnosed and I don't know his story, but I do know the general timeline and that back then there was no way to even accurately test your blood sugar outside of a doctor's office. In that time, instead of the sophisticated insulin pumps we have today, Bob was also likely boiling glass syringes to give himself insulin every day. I don't say all this to be a downer, but to give you a sense of why fundraisers like this are so important and why I'm so passionate to be here today and to protect funding for organizations like Breakthrough T1D. I always have this fear in the back of my mind about what the long-term consequences of this disease are going to be. I'm always scared about how long I'll have the health of my eyes and my nerves and my kidneys and my body as a whole. But new research and new technologies make me feel safer, and it makes my life infinitely easier in the day-to-day and in the long run. So I'm so grateful for everyone coming out today and funding this organization, and for Nicole and everyone who helped put this on, and to also help remember Bob. So thank you all so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.